Inviting two people who have served in the U.S. military, one a little while ago and one a long time ago. Michelle Henry and Glenn Anderson, why don't you come forward?
You must be the old timer,
Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
We had a chance to sit down on Wednesday or Thursday of this week and talk a little bit about their experiences serving in the U.S. military, two different situations. I'm going to ask each of them to just very briefly describe their service. And then I've got some other questions that we're going to talk about. So Glenn, why don't you
Ladies first. Even in the military.
Age before beauty.
I don't know why he keeps on referring to me as old. I'm not old. I'm pushing 90, but no, that's not old.
That's right.
What do you know, about 33? Good morning.
Morning.
I would like to say I was a hero, but I was drafted. There are a lot of heroes who were drafted. I was served in Korea, got over there just in time to see the armistice, thank goodness, thank the Lord. So I didn't have to shoot at anybody, though at times we did have some incoming and we ducked. But my military career was really not all that extensive. I was a U.S., not an RA, regular Army, as Michelle was. The Korean War was a tough war. I lived in foxholes and small tents for quite a few months. But it was a good war. We still have South Korea as a nation. We fought for the freedom over there. And I'm going to say something about my family, if I might. And that is that recollecting last night, starting with my father, I won't name all of them, but we had something like 17 individuals serving in the armed forces of the United States, my father's generation, through the grandparents, through my grandchildren. And I'm very proud of them. And some of them were heroes. We gathered up something like 3 or 4 Purple Hearts, several silver stars. That shows people who did what they had to do when they had to do it. They didn't think about it, they did it, crawling up there. My brother Roger over in Meadows, Germany, crawled up with when another one of his infantrymen squad was shot up, crawled up there, dragged him back, for a medic all the time, gave him first aid, probably saved his life, got him back where they could take care of him, and then the medic looked at my brother Roger and said, "What about you?" And he had the $1 million wound. He was cut up from the groin down to the toes, and he didn't even know it. He was too busy taking care of others. It's a heck of a lesson for us all.
Sure is.
Too busy, he's taking care of others. That's a silver star, a Purple Heart.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Michelle, will you describe your service?
I went in 1988. I'm sorry, 87. I served 6 months at Desert Storm, beginning in November of 89. And I was assigned to a transportation battalion, and which was the only transportation battalion that was stationed in Saudi Arabia. We ran the STAMA operations, which was the staging and marshaling, which if you think of a figure 8, we were the center of the figure 8. And we were pushing and picking up and delivering and moving the food, the petroleum, the water, all the supplies, the ammunition to the front lines. It was a 100-hour war, but it was a very hard 100 hours in several months because we didn't have using immersion heaters for showers, which we didn't get for several months. So we were basically cleaning ourselves out of coffee cans. And the food, you know, we had food. But the other thing that we had, which was really great, was we had our own chaplain. And so he had Sunday services every Sunday, which was really, really good. And it was a big help, and it was very comforting to us while we were there. But again, there are others that are going through a lot more and having much more difficult times than what I had when I was in, and what you had when you were in. And now these troops that we have out there today are really, really taking the brunt of some vicious activities.
Can you describe, I think it was when you were in Saudi Arabia with the missiles going by overhead. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, we had discussed one of the things, or some of the things that we, you know, were fearful of. And one of the things that struck me that I saw often was Scud missiles flying over. And they were indiscriminately just moving along, just like this, and flying over. And all I could think about was, somebody's going to get it, you know? And it's not me, because I'm seeing them flying over, but somebody's going to get it. And it was a horrible thought, horrible feeling to see that.
I was really struck by your empathy with some unknown people somewhere that were, you were safe, but I could feel it even 20 years later. Your heart was breaking for some unknown person or group of people who were going to be bombed. That's pretty amazing. Why was the presence of the chaplain in your company unit? Why was that so important for you?
Because I was really young, and I was raised in this church, and so we were afforded our time for prayer here, and I enjoyed that when I was there, because I didn't know if I was going to come home. I just didn't know anything. I was very young, and I needed something, and that was it. His name was Chaplain Oglesby, and he was a really nice gentleman. And but he actually built a cross. It was on Easter. He built a cross, and he actually posted it into the ground, and then we all sat around, and he had service, and it made me feel good. It made me feel comfort. And that was really important at a time when everything was just terrible.
But he kind of represented, and the cross represented the God was
Yes,
there.
yes,
Even
all the
in
time.
the midst of that.
Mhm.
You talked about being in foxholes. Is it true there are no atheists in foxholes?
That's for sure. That's for sure. We had chaplains over in Korea too, new ones. Very nice. Really comforting. You're talking about different things. I remember one of the concerns our chaplain had was the amount of, whenever there's a war zone, the armies, both sides, are in a different mental state or something. But anyway, they beget a lot of children, bastards, illegitimate kids. And I have a lot of photos of those that I took around Seoul and Korea and Busan. That's the thing that made my heart go out a lot, to see them. I pray for them every day. And sometimes we talk about heroes. I'm not nowhere near a hero, but 55,000 Americans got killed in Korea. 55,000, that's twice Rolling Meadows. Line all of us up and double it. And they died over there for our freedom. Another 100,000 are still in the hospital, or were in the hospital back in the 60s. Those people are heroes. Those people are heroes. And if you think that that's only happens on the front line, you haven't been awake the last couple of days. You don't remember 9/11? We're on the front line now. A lot of these guys and ladies up at the VA hospital, I go up there every once in a while, up North Chicago, down at Hines, where Joan's father, who was in the military, died. Joan also lost her brother during World War II. The Air Force plane blew up when they were loading explosives. I'm going to tell you one other story, if you don't mind, and that is that pastor asked me, was I scared? And you're damn right I was scared. I was always scared. Really scared over there. But I wasn't scared of people shooting at me, and that happened once or twice. Somebody up in the hills opened up. They had nothing else to do that afternoon or something. But I was scared when I went to bed at night. Why? Because if you reached over and the alert was sounded, and you reached for your boots, and they were furry, it was because he had big black rats chewing on the sole of their shoes. And, you know, that scares me. That just scares me. You know, boots like that. And I remember the story of my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, Eugene Christensen, who was one of the founding fathers of the community church when it was the barn. I mean, a lot of us old-timers remember community church. His name is hanging over there in the chapel of the community church, or his name in Carol Christensen, my sister. But anyway, my brother-in-law was in New Guinea, and he told me when he came back, he had 2 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star. And he was saying how he wasn't that scared of the Japanese shooting him or something. What he was scared of were the big snakes and the tigers. Don't know, you're out in the jungle, there's tigers out there. He says, at night you lay there in your foxhole and you're concerned that the tiger's going to come over and chew on you, you know. So every once in a while you heard bang, so you didn't move around at night because if there was any noise around you, you shot. You didn't say, hey, who's there? You know, come here, pussycat, you don't have to say things like that. And I was always nervous about the animal life more than I was DMZ.
Michelle, what made you scared when you were over there?
Well, a lot of the same things that Glenn had spoke of. You know, we had snakes that were actually burrowing under our tent. And so that was kind of scary. But I didn't like seeing, like one night, for instance, I went out running, and the moon was as bright as the sun, practically. You could read a book outside, and I went running and trying to keep up with my exercise and stuff. And then I ended up in this area where all I saw was these bones of animals, just all over, white as chalk, just everywhere as far as the eye could see. And it really kind of frightened me. So I didn't like seeing that.
Well, I want to thank both of you for sharing your experience.
I want to get my wife into this conversation, okay? Just 1 second. Talking about being scared, I came home, and Joan and I were married, and I used to get illusions sometimes, and I got nervous, and one night I got very nervous. I pushed her out of bed in the corner and covered her with blankets because I knew the rats and they were coming. They were going, and she's laying on the floor saying, "What am I doing?" On the floor, and this moron's throwing blankets over me. I was protecting her.
Wow.
Dear, I was protecting you.
I know you were.
Thank you.
Broke my toe.
We've been talking about lives of people in the military, and it really is. I don't have any military experience myself, but I lived in Pensacola, Florida for a year, and that's a very, very militarized town. And I picked up some of the military culture, or I learned about it in that time. And it really is, by necessity, a different kind of culture from what we take for granted in everyday life. There is an expectation that you will obey. You don't get to ask why necessarily. You just do it. it's a whole mindset of command and control and defeating an enemy and celebrating victory. And it's very, very different from the mindset that Jesus sets out for the community of the people who would follow after him. I want to read a passage from Jesus teaching. This is, you'll be familiar to you as the Beatitudes from Jesus' sermon. In Matthew, it's the Sermon on the Mount. In Luke, what I'm going to read is the Sermon on the Plain. But it's the same basic sermon. But it gives a flavor of the community that Jesus envisions for his disciples. I'm going to read it from a translation in modern dialect, so if you're following along in your Bibles, you're not going to be able to. If you're trying to follow along, you're not. But listen, because it's so familiar, I'd like you to hear it as if for the first time, and that's why I'm going to be using this translation. Coming down off the mountain with his disciples, Jesus stood on a plain surrounded by his disciples, and was soon joined by a huge congregation from all over Judea and Jerusalem, even from the seaside towns of Tyre and Sidon. They had come both to hear him and to be cured of their ailments. Those disturbed by evil spirits were healed. Everyone was trying to touch Jesus. So much energy surging from him. So many people healed. And then he spoke. You are blessed when you think you've lost it all. God's kingdom is there for the finding. You are blessed when you're ravenously hungry. Then you're ready for the messianic meal. You are blessed when the tears flow freely. Joy comes with the morning. Count yourself blessed every time someone cuts you down or throws you out, every time someone smears or blackens your name to discredit you. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort and that person is uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens. Skip like a lamb if you like. For even though they don't like it, I do. And all heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company. My preachers and witnesses have always been treated like this. But it's trouble ahead if you think you have it made. What you have is all you'll ever have. And it's trouble ahead if you're satisfied with yourself. Yourself will not satisfy you for long. And it's trouble ahead if you think life's all fun and games. There's suffering to be met, and you're going to meet it. There's trouble ahead when you live only for the approval of others, saying what flatters them, doing what indulges them. Popularity contests are not truth contests. Look how many scoundrel preachers were approved by your ancestors. Your task is to be true, not popular. To you who are ready for the truth, I say this: love your enemies. Let them bring out the best in you, not the worst. When someone gives you a hard time, respond with the energies of prayer for that person. If someone slaps you in the face, stand there and take it. If someone grabs your shirt, gift wrap your best coat and make a present of it. If someone takes unfair advantage of you, use the occasion to practice the servant life. No more tit for tat. Live generously. Here is a simple rule of thumb for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you. Then grab the initiative and do it for them. If you only love the lovable, do you expect a pat on the back? Run-of-the-mill sinners do that. If you only help those who help you, do you expect a medal? Garden variety sinners do that. If you only give for what you hope to get out of it, do you think that's charity? The stingiest of pawnbrokers does that. Jesus continues, I tell you, love your enemies. Help and give without expecting a return. You'll never, I promise, never regret it. Live out this God-created identity the way our Father lives towards us, generously and graciously. Even when we're at our worst, our Father is kind. You be kind. That's where I'm going to end there. There's a whole mindset that is not about what can be done for me, but how can I serve? How can I let my life be used in a way that serves others, and in so doing reflects God's love for the other, even the other who might be my enemy. Love one another as God has loved you. In Jesus' name.
Amen.